Hello, nerds. Welcome to the show, Larry.
I am glad to be here. Does that make me a nerd? I'm okay being one.
Well, you'll be one as soon as you say hello, nerds. Because that's how we got to start the show.
Hello, nerds. I am here, absolutely. And if it helps, just like some other people who call themselves nerds, I was a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan as a kid. If that helps.
Oh, it definitely does.
There we go. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. And I actually like the original Star Trek. So I guess I'm giving myself the age. I'm aging myself
yeah.
out here. And I
No,
actually saw
no.
Star Wars in the movie theater.
Oh, yes, I remember that too.
So yes, I'm giving out
Yeah,
my age, and I am. So am I getting any nerd street cred? I hope I am.
yeah, definitely, absolutely. Well, tell me a little bit. Tell me a little bit, Larry, about your early life. Where did you grow up, and what was
Sure.
that like?
When I was actually I was adopted. My mother my mother and father were not married. This is in the '60s when I was born in the '60s. I was born
Mm-hmm.
in Manhattan, and I was very lucky in that I was adopted as a baby. And many people who are adopted don't get as lucky as to be adopted as a baby. So I actually was adopted when I was a baby, and my parents lied to me for 30 years
Mm.
and didn't tell me I was adopted. I didn't find out I was adopted until I was like 30 years old. Yes, it was a
Wow.
very odd situation. But yes, that's actually a true story. So I was born in Manhattan, lived in Manhattan for a couple years as a baby, and then I was raised as a small kid in the South Bronx, right by Yankee Stadium. So I'm a huge Yankee fan, obviously, because as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
I went to the games all the time. This is back in the days when the bleachers used to cost $1.50 to get in. So it was very good to go see Yankee games all the time. So that's kind of where I grew up as a little kid. But my father was my mother was an immigrant from Germany, and my father was born and raised in Brooklyn and Manhattan, here in New York City, which is where I live now. I live in Queens now,
Mm-hmm.
and he died when I was a kid. I was 12 when he passed. He died of cancer. Took him 2 years to die. It was a terrible death for that. But after
Mm.
that happened, we had he was a he was a corrections officer and a cop in New York City, and we moved out to Long Island. He had raised enough money to move out to Long Island when I was 11 or 12, and he died right afterwards.
Mm.
And when he died, I was devastated, as any kid would be devastated when losing their father at that age. And I
Mm-hmm.
was lost for many years. So 17 years old, I can't wait to get out of there and do something special. I joined the Marine Corps. So I joined the Marines at 17, leave and take off. My mother can't handle the loss of both my father and me, basically, because I took off also. And
Mm.
she went into a depression spiral. Initially legal drugs and eventually illegal drugs. My mom became an addict and a felon. When I came back from the Marine Corps, I pulled her out of jail and tried to kind of rebuild her life if I could with a little bit of my own money and my own ideas to get something back in action for her. So I got her up and running. I started doing other jobs of my own. I was an English teacher for a while, which was a good job. I enjoyed that. I lived in Japan for several years as an English teacher. I came back to the United States again, trying to help her out some more. At this point, I saw what bothered me most about the situation is my this is about humanity, right? So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
give some human stories. My mother was as a felon, my mother had trouble getting a job, and she was an immigrant on top of it. So an immigrant and a felon, and she struggled. She lied on her forms because if she said the truth, then people wouldn't hire her.
Mm.
And when she got a job, she was a hostage. She was a hostage in that she couldn't tell her boss no or anything, because if she did and she lost that job, there might not be another job.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal for her, and I never forgot that. I also remember that the people who gave her initial chances before she got an office job were diners, were local small entrepreneurs that gave
Mm.
her a second chance. And that's why I'm all about second chances. So this is personal, obviously, to me. So those two pieces, why those two pieces matter, because as I traveled the state when I was running for governor in 2018, I did a diner tour and I stopped by diners, local diners, and I support local diners wherever I go. I always support local businesses, small businesses.
Mm.
And people ask why. And I say, because they're the ones in the communities who give people second chances. They're the ones who give the local person a chance at the dream of entrepreneurship, of self-ownership, of owning something of your own and not having to be, run by the man all the time, right? I mean, some
Mm-hmm.
people like having a regular job. That's not a problem. But if you want to have that opportunity, it gives you that opportunity. And I love those small businesses. That's why I support them constantly. And something I'll do sometimes in my live streams, I will literally ask the owner when I'm there, I'll say, hey, do you hire felons? And they'll say, yeah, there's 2 in the back right now. So like, that's just, they immediately always bring it up. So that part to me has always been important to me. But then the second piece is I see how hard it is for someone to make it. So I was so upset with my mom's situation, I decided we're going to start a business. And we started a business when my mom was going to be the 100% owner. And I was going to own it. And at that point, my mom had remarried. I had a step pop at that time. And I said, no, not him either. She's going to be the 100% owner. And they were like, why? I said, because if my mom is the boss and the owner, nobody can fire her. She will no longer be a hostage. So I basically did a lot of cold calling, and we bought a couple of trucks. Believe it or not, we started a trucking company. Because in New York State, how it was, I think it was the maximum was like a 24-foot truck. You didn't have to have a CDL, a commercial license to drive that. Whatever the number was, I think it was 24 foot. Whatever the number was, we bought that. We bought the biggest truck we could buy that we didn't require a CDL for. And then we bought a van, and we started a trucking business. And so we started doing that. That went up and running, and I left. I got my mom her new business, and she ran that until she retired. And she left. I left, and I went and did my own thing. My mom couldn't afford to live in New York State, to retire in New York State, so she packed up and left to North Carolina, and that's where she passed away. So that's my mom's story. My story, when I get back to the Marine Corps, I'm a teacher. I help my mom out. I get a bunch of jobs. I start that business. I get rid of it. I then decide, you know what? I'm going to start my own business on my own. That business fails, so I sell that one off at barely a break-even point after 2 years.
What was the business?
That was a distribution business, selling health food products from large companies that didn't have sales forces in the United States. And I basically became their sales rep in the United States, their distribution center in the United States. And I sold in health food stores and into franchise GNCs. So did that, did not go well. I call that my MBA, because that's how I learned to run a business, right? I learned how to run a business by failing at that business. That's my MBA. After that, I went back to training and teaching, and then I went to sales, and then I began my current business in 2004, which maybe you can see behind me, is the NeoSage, which is my consulting business, and I've had that now. I've been a consultant about 16 years. So that's my business road. How do I get into politics? I get into politics because in 2012, I am so disappointed in everything. I was basically a third-party guy. I was like, Nader is going to save us. Ralph Nader will save us in Perot. And yeah, I was a third-party guy, basically, because I thought the system didn't work. I didn't think it worked for me or my mother or my family, so I hated the system. It didn't work well. And then I heard Gary Johnson speak in 2012, and Gary Johnson spoke to me. I love Gary Johnson. People I know get mad at him, whatever. I don't care. I love Gary Johnson. I will always love Gary Johnson. He's the guy he was human enough to make me really get it, right? He was an entrepreneur. And I never forget when we spoke, he said something about judges, which really, really stuck with me. He said when he was governor of New Mexico, he said he would ask the judges, before he appoint them or bring them aboard. He said, all right, the state legislature passes a law, the governor signs it, that says if a 17-year-old is convicted of graffiti, it is a mandatory sentence of death. You're in a court. The jury finds the person guilty. They are 17 years old of graffiti. The mandatory sentence is death. What do you do? And he said, any answer except sentence him to death was okay. That's what he said. He said any answer that was not sentence him to death was okay. So if he said, well, I would find another reason, I would resign, I would go against the Congress, I would, have a stay, whatever, any answer that wasn't, I would just follow the law blindly and execute a 17-year-old. If any answer other than that was okay. But anyone who said, well, the law is the law, no, I don't want you to be a judge. And stuff like that is why I love Gary Johnson. And that moved me to the Libertarian Party. And I've been a member ever since. I ran to try to be his vice president in 2016. I lost that internal vote to Bill Weld. Bill Weld was his VP in 2016. I ran for governor in 2018, and I ran for governor in 2018 for there were many reasons why, but I think the kickoff reason was an odd one. It was, I was tired of New York. I thought New York was just punishing me constantly. I felt constantly punished in New York State. I see so many people leaving New York State. We've lost, those you don't know, we've lost over 2 million people in the past 10 years in New York State, just leaving in droves. New York State has exported most of its Republicans to Florida. That's why Florida's a red state now. It's because of New York. You're welcome, Florida, I guess, if you like that. If you don't like that, sorry. Well, however you feel about that happening, Florida. But it's our fault. In any case. So I was going to leave, and I was going to move to North Carolina. That's where I was going to head to. And I was going to go to Charlotte, because for what I do as a consultant, I need a large city. I need big businesses. That's my consulting gig. It's what I do. Without big businesses, I can't make the money that I want to make. So I have to find that world. So I was looking in North Carolina, and I realized, man, it's cheaper. It's nicer. It's better. I could sell my shoebox of a house in Queens and buy a mansion, right? And so I got angry, and I said, why do I have to leave my state? It's where I'm born. It's where my friends are. It's where my business is. Why do I have my family's here? Why do I have to leave? And I was mad. So I said, I'm going to come back to New York, run for governor, and change everything. In case you didn't know, Tom, that did not work out as planned. So it did not work out as planned, and I did not win. However, I was able to gain ballot access. And for those who don't know, ballot access is a huge issue in this country. The Democrats, Republicans ensure that no one else can get on the ballot. Meaning the chances for you to vote for someone, they go out of their way to just stop it. They literally sue us to pull us off the ballot. They make rules and regulations that are virtually impossible. They try to make sure you can't even be on the ballot to challenge them. So I had to get 15,000 signatures in New York State across 12 weeks. And it cost me a lot of time and money and energy to do that. And to do that, the Democrats, Republicans have to do nothing. They just get on. And that's written into our ballot access laws. That's written into our election law. They just get on the ballot. So if you run as a Democrat, Republican, and the party leadership says it's you're on. If you don't go with the two major parties, you have to get 15,000 signatures across New York State. You know how hard that is? Most people can't do it. So we got it. And then if you want to stay on the ballot, so you can just get on the ballot throughout the nation, meaning throughout the country, meaning other people who want to run locally can get onto the ballot, you have to gain 50,000 votes. Well, I did. I gained 100,000 votes. So now we're set. The next year, in 2019, I crossed the country trying to get other people to run. They run. They're jumping on board. I got 107 victories as local third party. We got 107 victories in 2019. And in 2020, New York State decided, oh, we can't have that. That's a problem. So they changed the rules in the middle of an election cycle in a budget line and said, now you have to get 45,000 signatures. You triple the number in half the time.
Wow.
And they said you have to get 130,000 votes, more than I got. What a surprise that is. So you got to get 130,000 votes. So of course, in 2020, we had to get a presidential candidate to do that. We couldn't do it. So we lost our ballot access. We're not a party anymore. They literally just removed our party status. So now I have to go now and do it again. So now in a month from now, I have to get 45,000 signatures in 5 weeks. Now here's the problem. The Democrats, Republicans will spend, if you're a Democrat, Republican listening, they will take your money that you donate to them, and they will pay people to physically go down to the Board of Elections and go through each one of my signatures and try to find why they're wrong. They will literally go through, see, that's the wrong this, that's the wrong that. So I can't get 45,000 signatures because if they find one wrong, then that's 44,999 and I'll be kicked off the ballot. So I have to get 65,000 or more, maybe 70,000 in 35 days. I have to average 2,000 signatures per day. Think about that.
That's a lot of signatures.
That's almost impossible, which is why I'll be the only other person on the running in New York State besides the two major parties. Because this game right now, the way they have it, which is why I know Forward Party, Unite New York Party, all wants this to change. because this has become a game to where if you're an average person, you cannot run. It will cost me $200,000 to get those signatures, and I don't work anymore. Literally, I have to take off. I don't take a salary for a year. Who can do that?
Yeah.
Who can take off for a year? Who can raise $200,000 and an army of people across the state just to get, again, just to be on the ballot so someone has a chance to vote for you? That doesn't count me putting together a team. That doesn't count me having even one Facebook ad. That doesn't count me putting anything. That is how difficult this is. It is insanely hard. And the last piece I'll bring up, when I ran in 2018, 5 people were running. I was the only person running who was not getting a government check. This time, there'll be 3 people running. I'll be the only person not getting a government check. This is either an establishment person's game or a billionaire's person's game. This is not the way our system should work. We have to change it. Otherwise, we're really in trouble. And the worst part of all of this is when you have just a 2-party system, left versus right, no one wants to fix anything. They just want to hurt the other. So now a win is not my life getting better. A win is the other guy lost. So now I won, even though my life is literally no better. I'm sorry, I yapped away forever, Tom. I apologize. It's what I do.
No, it's all good. You said you're the only candidate not getting a government check. What did you mean by that?
They're all government employees.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So literally taxpayer money is funding them running while I have to not get a salary.
Yeah.
And taxpayer money pays for them and allows them to go off. What other job you can't you can't be a UPS worker and the UPS goes, no, take off 3 weeks and go run. No other job lets you do that, right? You can't be working at the Amazon store and then they go, oh, go ahead and go off and take 3 weeks off and run for office. You can't do that. But if you're a government employee, yes, you can.
And what is, if we just rewind for a second, your consulting business, what kinds of stuff do you consult on?
Generally speaking, and this is the nerd part you guys will love, is I spend my time dealing with people who are very smart, who are concerned about accurate communication, which is very good, but don't understand emotional communication. So 3 fields I work in usually: law, tech, finance. Those are my 3 fields I spend a lot of time in. In these fields, generally speaking, the individual is promoted, given accolades, rewarded based upon skill set, right? They're good at what they do, and their communication only has to be accurate. They're responsible for the accuracy of their communication. But when you become a leader, that changes, right? I do a lot of leadership consulting. So things change. Now you are not only responsible for the accuracy of your communication, but you're responsible for the results of your communication. That changes totally, right? The idea that, well, I said what I said and it's true, doesn't matter if we don't make the numbers or people don't get things done, those types of things. So it's a different way of communicating. It becomes a more emotional communication and also talking strategically, right? How do I move people? How do I create purpose? How do I build a team? Many people who are in those fields really don't know how to do that. And they build teams only for, I want the best of the best. And that isn't a good team, right? A team has to function together. It can't just be the best of the best. The goal, I remember I taught at a couple of the Ivy League schools as a guest instructor at Yale and Columbia. I teach at Baruch, John Jay College. So some of the things I've dealt with is guys who say things like, Larry, come on, I'm smarter than all these guys. They'll say things like that. And I'll say, great, that's amazing. So do you think that the smartest guy in the room is the leader? And like, well, yeah, not always, right? So let's understand that isn't the rule. And the next thing is you're upset because, you want everyone else to be not as smart as you. I said, think about this. Don't you want the smartest team personally? Don't you want to be like, oh my God, my team is brilliant. Everyone around me is awesome. That's a good thing. And the last thing is, if you're a leader, a good leader gets smart people to want to follow them, right? That's the goal. I don't want to lead because I'm the boss. I want to lead because people want to follow me. This, by the way, is another reason why I'm libertarian. It is the idea of voluntarism, right? I want to lead where people want to follow me. I don't want people to follow me because they're afraid of being fired. That is the wrong reason for them to follow me. They should follow me because they want to. They believe in my purpose. They believe in my cause. They think I've got their best interest. We're all on the same page. This is post-industrial leadership, which is basically the idea of voluntary leadership, voluntary following, which is the future, right? If we want the world to be more successful, we have to understand that I need your arms and legs less than I ever have. I need your brain power far more than I ever have. I need your initiative. I need your intuition. I need your, assertiveness. I need your ownership mindset of every project far more than I need your arms and legs. So anyway, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It also makes me wonder. It does also seem like uh, former President Trump didn't have that leadership style.
No.
I don't really think he raised up people around him. Maybe like if he announced when when you initially hire someone, you'd say they're amazing, but then after that, not so much. Yet, he rose to the highest level in government. I'm curious, as a leadership consultant, how would you kind of unpack former President Trump's kind of leadership style and approach?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. Politics does change you. That's for sure. Because what you remember is when you're in politics, you don't run politics like a business, right? Politics is a passion project. And a lot of people find this out when they run. When I first ran my campaign, I began running it like a business. Not the right answer. You'll fail. You want to run it like a passion project because that's what it actually is. There are a whole lot more volunteers, and it becomes so much larger, you can hardly even handle it, right? So you really want to run it like a passion project. But when it comes to Trump, I think what Trump does well is he's able to get the people who are 2 arms distance away from him to believe in the message. The people next to him, he is much more worried about loyalty, which, by the way, is a common problem in politics. I have been backstabbed many times by people in my own party, many times. I say all the time, if you want to run for office, you've got to be able to take a knife in your back and pull it out and keep going. So guys like Trump don't want to be backstabbed. So they demand heavy loyalty of people right next to them. So what he does well is he motivates the people outside of his circle very well. The people in his circle is where he struggles, which is why he keeps his family close to him. If you notice, everything around him is often his family. He struggles keeping his inner circle well. He's very good at the outside of that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. And if you were consulting him, because a lot of people are talking about him running in 2024, what do you think? Should he think about changing his leadership style, or maybe it's working for him? I don't know.
Well, the problem that you have is once you become a person, once you become a public figure, then it does change how people see you, right? And most people are never going to actually talk to Donald Trump, right? Or any big leader like that. Most people aren't. So most of the time they're going to see them as something like this or on TV or something. So the image becomes critical. If he changes his image too quickly, people will be shocked. You really have to have an epiphany moment if you're going to change your image, right? And this is the point. If you can imagine, I do this when I talk about brands changing their brand or individuals changing their style. Can you think of a brand? You don't have to say it, but think of a brand that you really don't trust or don't like, right? A brand you're like, I don't like that brand. But for the sake of argument, I'm going to call it Acme brand, whatever that is, right? So you don't like Acme brand. You don't think it's a good brand, right? And all of a sudden they have a new, advertising campaign. Acme's different. Now we're cool. You're not going to believe it. But if the CEO of Acme came out and she said, you know what? I'm going to tell you what happened to me. And she gives you an epiphany moment. She goes, I was outside with my son, and he said, Mom, I don't want to tell people that, you work for Acme. And she goes, what do you mean? I'm a CEO. And he goes, yeah, but my friends think it's a bad company because of X, Y, and Z. When I heard that, it broke my heart. My own son didn't trust his mother being the CEO of this company anymore. And I felt so horrible. I've decided I'm going to make a change. If you heard that, you might consider Acme again. Because now there's an epiphany. You're announcing the epiphany. Okay, maybe. You still might not like Acme, but at least you give him a chance. Okay. So if anyone like a Donald Trump or any other public figure makes a massive change, if they want the public to believe them, they have to announce the epiphany. They've got to say what made the change. What is the issue, right? It's got to be that way. As a general rule, the change should not be subtle. A subtle change is often looked at as being as okay, they got to him. The change has to be massive, like Nixon going to China, right? Or something like that. It's got to be a massive change. So Donald Trump would have to be like, I'm going to be the most huggy, kissy person in the world, and whatever, open the borders to Mexico or something. I mean, he would never say that, but I'm saying something like that would have to happen for people to be like, oh, okay, wow, maybe this guy's changed. So if he was able to announce an epiphany and make a massive change, it could be done. Otherwise, most people are going to have put him into a box, and they're going to believe what they want to believe. And in today's left-right politics, which doesn't exist in the real world, but only exists in our political world, Donald Trump doesn't have to be the best. He simply has to not be the evil one. That's it. That's all he has to be, right? So whoever the Democrats put up, if the Republicans believe that person is evil incarnate, they'll vote Trump. If whoever the Republicans put up, if the Democrats believe that person's the devil incarnate, then they'll vote Democrat. In today's world, again, without third parties, I'm being a little pushy on third party pieces, you can tell. Without third parties, we don't vote for people. We vote against people. And we have to adjust that, right? And there are two reasons why that happens, by the way, so the people may not get this. We always say, well, things are bad. I say the system's bad. I just spoke about ballot access rules, how bad they are. Let me also go someplace else. The way our current financing rules work. PACs cannot coordinate with candidates, and we think it's a good thing. That is a terrible idea. Why? Because if a PAC gives money anyway, the money gets to the candidate anyway, so we think we're getting around it. We aren't. So what it means is the PAC can't actually. So if I have a good plan, which I have many good plans, but say we're talking about my plan for education. If a PAC puts out a plan, an advertisement that says, hey, here's Larry's education plan, that's considered coordinating. They'll get in trouble. Someone might go to jail. So they can't do that. It's against the law. So what can they do? Say the other guy is bad. So literally all PAC conversations are other guy bad. Right. Because legally they have to do that. So that's number one. And number two, if there's only two people, they go, all right, look, I can say, look, I know I'm a bad guy, killed a guy. But Tom killed 4 people. So he's way worse than me. You don't want a mass murderer. You just want a regular murderer. And then they go, yeah, we don't want a mass murderer. Let's just vote for the murderer. So I get to vote, not you. When you have 3 parties, if you and I are both murderers, they might vote for someone who's not a murderer, which would be the third person. So the negative campaigning doesn't work. Right now, negative campaigning works and is legal. So of course we do that. That's why there's so much negative campaigning. It works and it's legal. So of course we do it.
Why do you think if a third candidate is in the mix, the original candidate wouldn't just say, oh yeah, and that other guy, he's also a murderer, a mass murderer?
But you just said it. Think about how that feels. So everybody else is bad? Everybody's bad but you? Right? It begins to cast doubt. Right? It does. Yeah. But there's another reason too. Does it magically change things? No. Does it make things better? Yes. Because to be a third party, for me to get any pull or push at all, I have to have policies, actual answers, or no one pays attention to me. The only reason why I got on cool shows is because I have some kind of policy. I have something I have to say. No one else does. Since about 2000, consultants have been telling their candidates, don't put policy on your page. Don't put any policy out. If you put policy out, people will go through your policy, tear it apart, and do attack ads on you. So don't do it. So go to any politician now who's a regular Democrat or Republican. You can't find policy on their page. You just can't. Now you can find a couple, like Bernie Sanders has it, but Bernie Sanders is an independent. He's not a Democrat or Republican. Go to a Democrat or Republican, go to their page, and try to find actual policy. You won't. What you'll find is rhetoric. What you'll find is ideology. You'll find that. Like someone will be like, we have to stop the immigrants. So they have a policy to do that. No, it'll be build a wall. That's what it'll be. Or it'll be, we love immigrants. That's not a policy. That's ideology. I put out actual policy. Here's what we should do. Now, why is it a problem? Because right now, Democratic Party is the party of bad ideas, and the Republican Party is the party of no ideas. So nothing's getting changed, right? Generally speaking, whoever's in charge is the party of bad ideas, and whoever's not in charge is the party of no ideas. That's how it usually works in almost any situation. So the Democrats are in charge now. They're the party of bad ideas. Republicans are the party of, that's a bad idea. No idea, right? That's how that works.
Mm-hmm.
But now if I start talking and saying, how about this? We have to have an actual policy talk. If we have an actual policy talk, we have to fix something. If we fix something, then it can't be a wedge issue to actually change things, right? That's what I want. I don't want people to be, oh my God, let me just, I don't want people to be saying, I have to vote against this guy. I want people saying, how can we fix things? And if we don't fix things, then they can become wedge issues. Are you telling me we couldn't have come up with an answer for immigration over the past 30 years? Are you telling me we couldn't have found an answer for our foreign policy in 30 years? Of course we could have. But these become wedge issues. So we don't fix them. People just keep getting angry.
What would be some of the top policy priorities of a Sharpe administration in New York State?
There are many of them because New York State is a totally broken state. So, of course, there are many. But one of the ones I've been talking about is education. And another one is property tax. And maybe one more is probably creating an actual fund. We're going to create a VAT, not a tax. It is a voluntary assistance trust, which means we're basically going to create a fund that will help pay for things instead of using taxation, right? That is the issue. I don't want more and more taxation. My goals are always to get large organizations and large companies to pay, but voluntarily. You might go, Larry, how are we going to get them to pay voluntarily? Let me give you a couple of ways that we can do that. Number one, if we were able to take a chunk of New York's tax base and then take that and put into a fund and to raise money against that to actually get people to buy into a New York State trust backed by New York State. We do that, we create a chunk of money, hopefully billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars that can now help pay for Medicaid, Medicare, which right now is crushing our counties. So all of a sudden the counties start getting a surplus. As the counties get a surplus, now they can fix their own roads, which right now we don't do. New York State has terrible potholes everywhere. We can actually fix our roads, right? The next piece that we can do is we can actually start taking some of our infrastructure. New York City has tons of bridges and tunnels. Lease out naming rights to those bridges and tunnels. Right now we have you go to a football stadium and it's the Sunkist Stadium or the e-commerce stadium, whatever the stadium is. Why can't we have that on our bridges and tunnels? In New York City, we actually have a 16 million person metro area, right? Which people mention these bridges and tunnels hundreds of times every single day on the radio during traffic reports. What if it were the 3M bridge or the Kellogg bridge, something like that? They pay us $100 million a year. Take that money and pay for infrastructure and get rid of tolls on the bridges. You might go, Larry, why do I care about tolls? Because the working poor and the middle class pay the tolls. The wealthy already live in Manhattan, right? So that's who's paying those tolls. So now they can pay for the maintenance on the bridge. We still maintain the bridge. We still make sure it's still up and running. Everything's good, safe, and they start paying for it and have the name on the bridge. Life is good. Still not done. New York City subway system. It is both violent and nasty and inefficient and expensive. Well, why in the world aren't we during the evenings allowing freight trains to come into New York City? Companies like Home Depot, companies like Amazon, those kind of companies would happily want to bring freight into New York City. Again, 16-person metro area, 16 million metro area. Bring freight to the city. Less trucks on our road, less trucks in the city, right? More trains coming in. But Larry, the subway system isn't prepared for that. You're right. They will have to rebuild our subway system. They can rebuild our subway system. They'll pay for it. They can sponsor the hubs and bring their freight in. This is win-win-win. And now the subway system, which is used again by the working poor and the middle class, now becomes cheaper, more efficient, more effective. And lastly, we have, when it comes to the subway system, We have a huge homeless problem in New York City, massive. Many of them use public transportation as a place to stay and to sleep, particularly in the winter. Well, we can do what we're trying to do, which is have the cops come in and throw them out. I mean, that's what we're doing now, or trying to, and that's not even working. Or instead, we can actually create areas within the subway to help them. They're going to be there anyway. So why don't we have literally after every, say, third or fourth or fifth car, a help station, one car that is there to help them. Why can't we do that? So now if they're going to be there anyway, let's give them help. Sadly, many of the people who are in the home situation in the subways, many of them aren't working poor. Many of them either have an addiction problem or mental illness problem. Most of the working poor who are homeless or unhoused, many of them are in shelters, right? Not all, but many of them are. So the population in the subway tends to be heavily pushed with people who are either addicts or who have mental illness. Why can't we create help facilities there? Of course we can. We can do all of this, make things better without having to. The goal people always say is, well, Larry, tax the rich. Hear that all the time. Tax the rich. Here's the problem with this. The rich are the ones who write the laws. That's how it works. The corporate lobbies write the laws, and there are always loopholes. How do I know this? Because we've been taxing the rich for years, and we haven't been taxing the rich, right? We've been having campaign finance laws to stop the rich from influencing our elections for decades. Yet there's more money than ever. It doesn't work when you do that. It's failed constantly. These are ideas that could actually work. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. And there's been some chatter in the live stream chat room wondering about your position on universal basic income. What is your
Yes.
take on that?
There are a lot of people who are mad at me for not having a UBI plan. What I have is a step-up stipend plan, which is different. I'm a libertarian. I don't hide that fact at all. And people want UBI. UBI in today's world, and I'm gonna make some people angry when I say it, is a non-starter. Not because of me. People think it's like my fault because I don't get behind it. I guess I'm not pure enough for the person. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm still gonna lie to you. It's not gonna happen. UBI. Look, Democrats don't want UBI. Republicans don't want UBI. The corporatists don't want UBI. So it's not going to happen, right? It's nice that they talk about it, not going to happen. What they will consider is my plan, which is basically a negative income tax. I call it the step-up stipend. It is similar to a UBI, but it's not a UBI. It's similar. What is the difference? A UBI goes to everybody. Everybody gets UBI. Whether you're Bill Gates, whether you're me, whether you're the homeless guy on the street, everyone gets UBI, right? That's how that works. In reality, the negative income tax is the opposite. In New York State, we look at the number of $20,000 for New York State. Now, that may not be the right number in other states, other areas. I don't know. What we're looking at in New York State is $20,000. Everybody who doesn't make $20,000 or more gets $20,000. So they get it every year. If you don't make $20,000 or more, you get $20,000. But that's in the end of it. For every dollar you make, you lose 50 cents of your stipend, allowing you to work your way up to $40,000. Why? Because with most problems right now, with most situations right now, in the current, particularly federal government, there is always a place to where you fall off a cliff. So once I make X dollars, I lose all of my benefits. I lose everything. I lose all of my benefits. So that cliff hurts everybody. So people are encouraged to either lie or not work or all the bad things we don't want. But I instead want everyone to just get the cash at $20,000. You begin to get more. So you start working. What if you have a child? What if you need to change your job? Well, now you begin to work your way up to $40,000. So now if you make over $40,000, you get nothing. That's not a bad thing. I don't know why people are mad at that. If you're making over, and again, that's for my specific New York State. That may change other states, other areas. The numbers will be different, but I'm not running for the president. I'm running for New York State. That's the number. You make over that. Why am I writing you a check? Why am I writing you a check if you make over $40,000? I should not be doing that. Now, people disagree with me, and that's okay, but that's how I feel. You can be upset. I get it. But if you make under, we're going to work your way up. But I also want to make it to where you can work your way up. You want to go back to school, all those things. And to be clear, the money that you're getting from the state doesn't change your federal benefits. Whatever federal benefits you get, you still get. Whatever that number is, you still get those numbers. You get whatever the federal government's giving you. So it doesn't stop you from getting Medicaid or Medicare if you don't either of those two things. But that kind of plan begins to work you up. Now people have an advantage. Now they don't just lose their benefits. Now, in today's world, can you imagine what would happen if you just gave everybody another $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, whatever that number is per month? All it would do is raise debt because it would change nothing else. No, the system would change. The system has to change. That's the issue. Now you might say, wait a minute, Larry, you're a libertarian. How can you be giving that money away? Well, as a libertarian, of course, I wouldn't want to, obviously, right? Of course not. That's why we have to create a fund. And the fund is the Voluntary Assistance Trust, which will get large business, usually mostly permanent capital, to actually take their money and put it into this trust. They put the money into this trust. I'm literally having big business pay for my negative income tax. I'm having big business voluntarily pay for people who are making less than $40,000 a year. We do that, it changes everything. This is a plan that can work. It's a plan that does not require any more taxation. It doesn't punish the working poor. It doesn't reward the wealthy. It actually makes everything a whole lot better. Did I answer your question at least?
Yeah, I have a follow-up.
Please.
I think one of the reasons why a lot of people advocate basic income, including myself,
Yep.
and having it universal is that unless I might be misunderstanding the step up program, so it might be a clarifying question. In the example you gave, if someone earned 19,000 and got the 20K grant, they would basically have the same total comp as someone who earned, worked their way up and earned 39,000 and didn't get any grant. And so part of the argument for basic income is, hey, we don't want to create a disincentive for working. It should just be like, hey, whenever you work, you're just going to make more money. You're not necessarily like giving up this floor that you get. And I'd be curious to get your thoughts on it.
Say that one more time.
So if everybody unconditionally got 20K a year,
got it. Okay.
Then if I want to then get another job, a second job or a side gig, and I'll supplement that income, I don't feel like, oh, I'm going to lose that first 20K
right.
that I got for my basic income. But if there are conditions, if it's like, well, once you make 40K, you're not getting any help from any basic income, there does create this strange disincentive to work, because it's like, well, if you're a rational person, you might be like, shit, I'm going to make $19,999, get to 20, but I don't want to keep working. It's sort of like the 401k matching. Like once a company stops matching, like you may not put in as much. So that's an argument for basic income being unconditional to kind of not distort any incentives to work.
Well, remember though, right? For every dollar you make, you're only losing 50 cents.
Yeah.
So if you made 20K, you'd only lose 10K. You'd still be getting 30.
Yeah, you would still be getting 30.
So you'd still be getting money, right? So
yeah.
If you make no money, zero, you stay home, you don't work, you get 20K, right? That's survivable. That's not great money. Survivable. If you have 2 or 3 people living together, now we're making some money, and now we're doing okay, right? If you have multiple people living in the same household, you're surviving, right? This is basic income. Is what it actually is, basic income. But now you make $10,000 that year. You decide to get a job doing something, maybe it's part-time, you change something else, you decide to go into a new field, test something out, you make 10K. So now you made your 10K, but instead of getting 20, you get 15. So now you have 25. You still make more money. The incentive is for you to grow your way up. There's no cliff. That's the whole point. By the time you're making 20,000, now you're making 20, you lose 10. You're making 40, you lose 20. So it falls up at 40,000 is when you don't get anything, at $40,000. This is not a bad deal.
So, okay, in that example, if at 41 I don't get anything, then why wouldn't I just kind of optimize and stop working more
You
once the
could if you
matching
wanted to.
starts?
My point is, but there's no cliff. Is it slowly going up every single time you make more money?
Mm-hmm.
So there's no cliff. In other words, when you're making same example, right? This time you're doing well. You're making $30,000 a year. You're getting better, right? You were making
Mm-hmm.
zero. 2 years later, you're making 30,000. You're getting better. Well, you're making 30,000, so you would lose 15,000 of your stipend.
Mm-hmm.
So you just get 5,000. So now you're making 35,000. You're still good. As you work more, you get more. Is my point. As you work more,
Yeah,
you
you
get more.
definitely get more. I
Yes.
totally agree there. However,
Yes.
um, if you look at someone who's making in your proposal 19,000, and
Yep.
they take a side job and they make another $1,000 a year, they're going to get all of their 20K grant and that extra thousand. But the
Mm-hmm.
moment they cross over that 20K mark and they get another job or increase their hours and they get to 21,000, now they're like, oh, well, I'm going to get the extra thousand from working more hours, but now my grant just got dropped by 500, right? Because it's,
Correct.
and so I agree with you. The total income does go up, but
Yep.
the slope of the line changes by definition. And so that's, one of the things that I think some advocates for basic income like is that it's so simple. It's like, no, everybody gets 20K, full stop. Go ahead, work as much as you want, do all kinds of great stuff. That's fantastic. Like there's no
Yep.
paperwork. You don't have to fill out any forms. It's kind of
Yep.
straightforward. But I get your perspective as well, and
Yeah.
I understand
Here
the
is my
nuance there.
worry with the everyone gets 20K. And again, I get people disagree. I'm going to be forward with you and
Yeah,
everybody watching. So you're not going to see me just all of a sudden go, well, what I mean is no, no, this is where I am. If if everyone gets 20K, number one, a bunch of people don't need it, right?
true,
A bunch
true.
don't need it.
Hmm.
Tons don't need it. Which people will go, oh yeah, but then they'll donate it away. No, they won't. They never do. That's a fantasy. They just take it and they'll spend it. Or worse, if they're wealthy, they'll just put it in the market or someplace else, also probably overseas, right? So that money just leaves, right? How do I know that to be true? I see it in New York State. We have a pension fund which is paying people $300,000 or $400,000 a year in many cases who've retired from being state workers, and they go to Florida and spend the pension in Florida, and New York State just keeps paying out and getting nothing for it, right? Because New York
Hmm.
State's so bad, we created a state where no one wants to live here. I want people to retire here and spend their pensions here in New York State. They don't. They pack up and they leave. So I don't want that, number one. But I'm not even done with that. So all that money goes to people who don't need it. Number two, how are you going to pay for it? Just write more checks? You can. That's the thing we do. And I mean, wrong. If we have a war, we always find money to fight a war. We find trillions of dollars to fight a war, to support whoever we want to support in whatever war we're fighting today, whether we're fighting in Afghanistan or Ukraine or wherever we're fighting, Iraq, insert war here, we always find money for that. So that's true. I give you, yeah. But I would like none of those to be happening, not just that. But the next piece is, does that all of a sudden, if we did it like that, wouldn't all of a sudden everyone go, well, I need 20, but I have a kid, so I need 22,000. Or I'm a veteran, I need 25,000. Or I'm disabled, I need 24,000. Isn't that, aren't we going to keep doing that all over again? Wouldn't we just make UBI and now everything's just on top of it again? And then won't we have the same battles we're having now? My worry is if we don't change the culture and we don't make that cliff and we make something special, we incentivize people to work more, but give them a better floor. I feel like people will do better. Now, here's the issue. I'm talking about doing it in New York State. People under UBIs throughout the entire states. Why don't we do both? Why don't we have whatever, Vermont or New Hampshire or Connecticut do UBI, and we'll have New York State do the step up plan, and we'll see which one works. I'm okay with that. I'm totally fine with that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. So I'm good. We can do either of those.
Fantastic conversation and really fun topic, especially for this audience who are generally big UBI fans. But I really appreciate you, Larry, kind of laying out your perspective and getting into a little bit of the nuance. We
Well,
are
I
a
think
little,
there's one more piece if I could bring it up.
yeah, please.
I think that there are many people in America and you know this, I'm sure, who absolutely hate the idea of UBI, do not want it whatsoever, are 100% against it, will fight it like there's no tomorrow. But I think most people are okay with my plan. They may not love it. I'm sorry, let me go back. Most people who hate UBI, I should separate that, because people who like UBI don't always like my plan. But if you hate UBI, many of them go, you know what? I'm okay with this plan. This one I can stomach. And that's why I think it's a good compromise. Because I think people who hate UBI will actually go, you know what? I'm okay. I can take this. And that's why I think it's the right answer. And this is the next idea that I keep bringing up. Having a third party like me have this conversation brings this conversation up. This is why, my view, Yang has not told me this is my view. This is the biggest reason why I think Yang has moved to third party. Because when you go to third party, people start talking about these issues. When you're in the Republican Democratic Party, something like a UBI as an example, the Republicans aren't even talking about UBI. That is totally off the table. That's like a fantasy for that, right? And the Democrats talk about it, but then do nothing, right? In fact, you heard for those people who are further left, you heard Biden. He wasn't talking about UBI. He wasn't talking about student debt. He wasn't talking about workers owning the production. He wasn't about any of that stuff. He's like, I'm a capitalist. So Democrats are corporatist, Republicans are corporatist. That's how it works. We can feel like one side's better than the other. I guess they may sound better here or there, but in reality, they're both corporatists. If you want anything to change, you've got to go through a third party to have the real conversations to move the population. Whether that's the Forward Party, Libertarian Party, Green Party, insert party here, and you will start having the right conversations to move things forward. I actually have a plan that we could actually support local co-ops to give workers ownership of the production without having to force it. And I'm talking about it. I have a plan for that too. Supporting local co-ops, co-op banking, co-op organizations, all those things. Democrats aren't talking about that in my state. Maybe in yours, I don't know, but not in my state, not nationally. They wouldn't even bring it up. They don't even discuss it at all. It's a non-starter because corporatists don't like that idea. Corporatists don't support workers in any way, shape, or form, right? I'm talking about, let's have the conversation, and I'll support them at a local level voluntarily. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but we're talking about it. And if I'm right, then you guys go, oh my God, Larry was right in this one. It's all good. I come on shows like this and tell you what I feel. I'm not fighting anybody. I'm giving you what I feel, and they'll be unhappy or happy, but we're having a conversation. I would ask you, if you had a Republican and Democrat on, the Republican would just attack you. Democrat would just placate you. That's all you'd have. You wouldn't have a conversation. Republican would call you bad, mean, and nasty and tell you how silly you are and how awesome Trump is or whatever is their thing. Democrat would go, oh, yeah, we care about the people so much, and do nothing to save the people whatsoever. That's my view.
Larry, it's I absolutely agree with you. It's great to have you stirring the pot and providing other perspectives that we don't hear all the time. Uh, tell the audience a little bit more what if people are liking what they're hearing and they want to learn more about you or pitch in. Obviously, I'll do a plug. They can go to ofthepeople.us and vote up your profile there and approval vote you, which you are a trending candidate in the top 3 as of yesterday. But how else and that has links to your website and Twitter account. But how else can people pitch in and be part of your journey?
There are 3 things I require. Number 1, I need people to volunteer. So go to LarrySharpe.com/volunteer. We need petitions. As I mentioned, I got to get 2,000 petitions per day starting on April 19th. If you can help me petition, please come to New York. If you don't live in New York, you can help us out. If you live in New York, please get some petitions for us, get some signatures. We need it desperately to get on the ballot. And I'm also trying to get the Forward line and trying to get the Unite line. So if you care about any of those parties, any third parties in New York State, you should be okay helping me out to make that happen. If you disagree with my policies, I get it. But here's the problem, the thing that we all agree on. Forward agrees, Unite agrees, I agree. It's called the program, BRO. BRO, the program. Better ballot access for all third parties, ranked choice voting so that people can vote for the person they want to vote for, even if they're scared of the other, and open primaries, allowing people to vote in one primary of their choice that matters specifically in your local area. right? So those three things, better ballot access, ranked choice voting, open primaries is what I'm all about. That's why all the third parties are together, because if we don't win this, there will be no third parties in New York State. They will not exist. This is an existential threat for third parties. I'm hoping that you will get together and help me out with that. Second thing, obviously, is donations. If you can donate, please go to larrysharpe.com/donate. Whatever you can give. That'd be awesome. We need it for things like ballot access and everything else. And last, it's going to sound crazy, but I am always looking for people to help me with policy. I create policy all the time. It's what I do. Lots of if you go to my website, larrysharpe.com, you will see tons and tons of policy. We are always working on policy. And to be forward with you, I do change my mind sometimes. People come in and I change my mind and make different ideas and concepts. I'm open to changing my mind 100%. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't thinking that. What I want is a better New York State. That's what I want. And I will try to create policies that will create a better New York State, whatever those policies are. So I also want people to talk to me and join my policy team. And if you look and you go to my website, click volunteer, there are three choices, right? One is for the social media team, one is for petitioning, and one is for policy team. If you want to be part of any of those three, go ahead, click those three, volunteer, we'll have a conversation. To be forward, I actually have a couple people from the Forward Party who've already joined my policy team. So I'm 100% ready to have that happen.
Very cool, Larry. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Nerd Show, and it's been a great conversation, and people can learn more about you. I'll put a link in the description below, and that'll connect to your website and Twitter account as well. So,
Awesome.
yeah, been a really fun dialogue, and look forward to continuing the conversation. Best of luck in the campaign, and I'm sure you'll pick up a lot of support and a lot of interest.
Let's hope so. Thank you for having me.
All right. With that, we'll say goodbye, nerds. Goodbye, nerds. All right. So that was Larry Sharpe running for governor. I know there's a lot of discussion in the chat about his approach to, I guess I wouldn't call it basic income. I think he's right that his accurate terminology is he's proposing a negative income tax, which, I think a lot of people would say is a step at least in the right direction. And then I'll let you all debate about whether it's better or worse than basic income. I think I made myself pretty clear that I'm more in the unconditional camp. But it's great that Larry's willing to come on and talk at length about these things. And I wanted to also give a shout out to the people who make this content possible. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to support this channel so we can produce more content like this, feel free to click on that join link. And what'll happen is you'll become a monthly member. You can cancel anytime, and they start at $1.99 a month. And I just want to shout out some of our supporters, and we're going to start with our top supporters and then kind of work our way down based on their membership level and how long they've been a member. So let's do that. Let's thank these nerds. Okay. All right. All right. First one, Soldier One, our biggest supporter, been a member for 23 months and a senior vice president. So thank you, Soldier One. Now at the vice president level, very small group, we have Kristen Slevin, 26 months supporting this channel. Bike, and Stephen Jones, 16 months. Stephen's a younger VP, 2 months, but awesome that you're supporting at this level. So thank you for doing that. Then the next level down is the hardcore. And as we go down levels, I'll go a little faster because there's a little bit more people. We've got Gene Lim, David, DK, Jekalago, Kirsch, Mr. History, Byram, Mona, Susan, Vaughn. I think Vaughn might actually be in the chat. He might be even in the stream. I think I saw him. Yang Dang, Tony, Robert, Dean, Stat Nerd, Galessa, J Perrin, AH, J Brian, Vivian, Dana, Jason, and Parth. And then at the entry level, which you can join, only $1.99 a month, and it pays for podcast hosting, streaming software, basically all the stuff that we do to make this channel happen. Lisa, Albert, Brandon, Peter, Arez, your mom, and Sophia, Mike, Doris, Emerald, Lori, Ben, Rasta, Elizabeth, James, Emma, Hui, Ira, Shoni, Jameson, Dr. William, Karen, Monica, Ardent, Semery, Mai, David, Brittany, Alexandra, Juana, Warren, Lucky, Kevin, and H3. And let's talk about who are our oldest members and our youngest members. So we'll select them all. The oldest members overall, the ones that have been supporting this channel for the longest period of time, Lisa Childress, Jean Lim, and Kristen Slevin, our top 3 oldest. And then our youngest members, the newest nerds, Stephen Jones, H3 Simp, and Kevin LaHuru, I think. So thank you for supporting. And then if, by the way, you really liked what you heard from Larry, you should think about going to ofthepeople.us and vote up candidates that you think are interesting. Right now, our trending candidates are Dan Whitfield, Catherine Fleming Bruce, David Kim, Gary Voter, Christy Seelock, John Fetterman, Jermaine Johnson, James Russell, Gary Chambers, Ali Dalzimer. And then if you look at those are the popular, and then the all-time candidates getting the most support are Christy Seelock, Ali Dalzimer, Shervin Azami, Dan Whitfield, and Lauren Hubbard. Josh Whale is right there, and there's Larry Sharpe. So if you liked Larry, or you're like, well, he's not my favorite, but I approve him, you can click on his name and then click this blue button, and then that moves him up on the trending list right now, where Dan, Catherine, and David Kim are the top 3. So ofthepeople.us. So with that, I will say goodbye, nerds, and see you guys next episode. Peace.